Howdy, 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 my name's Anachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, I said that this next episode was going to be, going back to covering the Resurrection A9 thing, and it had a nice segue and everything. So, this episode is going to be some more Resurrection A9, and the next episode is going to go back to the numbers. I've explained this already. Sorry about the burping, I was drinking soda instead of water like a stupid. Okay, so... I'm not really sure what the before is, but I'm going to see the other members of the council, Ten said. I want you to come with me. Saul had known this was coming since the visit to the oracles. That was a thing that happened a while ago, where Ten went to go speak to some oracles in a building, and there was giants and a bunch of faces and 100 different voices. Good times, good times. Her first reaction was guarded excitement. As was typical for a Factorum, she'd only met a few council members. Even working so close to the council, you never forgot how larger than life they really were. Who wouldn't be curious? Then she wondered why Ten would do that. Some council members took associates everywhere, but Ten was a loner, and the vote on Alpha 9 was imminent. She expected to die, Salt realized. Ten, the archivist, the keeper of the ends of the world, had always been fatalistic. This was a parting gesture. I counseled waiting. Two's tone was gentle. They'd met too in the vast garden that housed SCP-06, I don't remember what 06 is. Here at the spring source, the foliage grew dense and rich and alien. There were things that lived here and nowhere else, primordial refugees from a time that no longer existed. Two was an old grandmotherly white woman, one of the oldest members of the O5 Council, maybe one of the original 12. She wore casual clothing and a gray hand-knit shawl decorated with pink flowers and a straw hat that mostly hid the scars on her face. Salt envied her. As Ten's decoy, she moved like Ten, smiled like Ten, and dressed in Ten's fitted, confining suits. Saul wondered if Two employed decoys from the Factorum too, a small herd of kindly grandmothers with identical flowery shawls. I believe the vote will pass, Two said. It's only a matter of how. You have 4, 9, me, and yourself. Your trouble will be getting above 4 votes. 7 supports the project, Ten said. Of course! 7 never regretted the old days, but she is a tactician to the core. If 7 votes against this project, then you should expect an attempt on your life in the next several days. 10 looked startled. She wouldn't. Of course not. 7 is a barometer. If she sides against you, it's because she knows something. Make sure you speak with her soon. 3. One of 3's proxies came to see 10 surrounded by agents of MTF Alpha 1. Alpha 1, the red right hand, was the Council's personal task force, part terrifying inquisitorial squad and part Council's personal guard. 3 didn't take much advantage of that, preferring other security methods, but lavished agents and resources on all their assistants. Salt knew this proxy distantly, a well-dressed Japanese-American woman named Flint. Flint delivered 10 an envelope. It contained a flash drive door with a happy face sticker, which 10 pocketed without explanation, and a note on expensive stationery. I'm sorry, but this isn't my fight. If you need anything else, feel free to ask. 3. 4. 4's message warned them that the meeting location was a place where humans are not meant to tread. It turned out to be a Waffle House somewhere in the Midwest. The hour was late. Snow fell outside. Salt watched the patrons as they waited, a woman wearing a trucker hat, hoop earrings, and tap shoes. An unthinkably massive man with greenish skin. A hunched man sitting 6 seats away. Salt looked away, then back, and he was 5 seats away. Again in 3 seats. Salt was trained to evaluate detail quickly. The man's eyes didn't match, his clothes weren't fitted correctly, one of his nostrils were missing. The other customers were the same, even from a distance something was off. The only exception was the waitress who watched them with a strange intensity. Ma'am? It's alright, Ten murmured. Hello. Salt looked up to see 4 smiling at her without a care in the world. My apologies for keeping you waiting. Snow trouble? Ten replied. If I remember right, 10 is a 5'6" 5'6"-ish black woman, if I remember right. Salt looked back at the hunched man, 6 seats away. The waitress eyed 4, visibly sighed and turned away. 4 looked much the same as he always did. His suit and shoes were pristine, barely touched by the snowfall. He didn't even seem cold. That was the thing about 4. All council members occasionally seemed preternatural, but 4 was preternatural. Many people found 4 irritating, too mysterious. Even though he was unusually free with personal information. Salt knew that he was of native Australian descent by way of Toronto. Isn't that Canada? That he was assigned female at birth, that he had once been an exceptional Foundation field agent, and that he liked to practice sleight of hand badly. More than she even knew about 10. But 4 would tell you nothing about his most remarkable trait, a clearly anomalous ability to walk vast distances in an impossibly short time. Salt understood. 4 was like a vampire in a world where nobody knew anything at all about vampires. Why tell people about crosses, about garlic? All O5s were like that, 4 only more so. What is this place? Salt asked. This is a Waffle House at 3 in the morning. 4 picked up a menu. A place of wrongness and unnatural entities. But I repeat myself. I assume we aren't in danger? Ma'am, we're always in danger, 4 said. This world's a dangerous place. If one place wears its danger more on its sleeve than another, well, at least everyone's following the same playbook, right? Salt looked at 10. 10 looked neutral. This seems like SCP-1670, Salt said. There should be a rule about having 2 of the same anomaly. I'll keep that in mind next time I talk to them. Who? I asked you here to discuss your vote, 10 said. And why would that be? 4 looked surprised. My opinion remains the same as always. I see no special reason to have any discomfort regarding the use of anomalies. Things could get ugly. I wondered if you wished to abstain. The waitress brought them plates, though they hadn't ordered. Fried eggs for 10, eggs Benedict, and coffee for Salt. Exactly what she'd been considering. A pile of waffles drowned in syrup for 4. 4 dug in. I appreciate your concern, but I'm in no danger. I'm only sorry that I can do little to help you. I understand. You know about the possible assassination threat, yes. So wasteful. More fun with more players at the table, don't you think? Only 13 places, 10 said. Each player can be replaced. That depends entirely on which table you're talking about. Still, you can be confident that you have my vote, and that it will not be my knife in your back. 5. They met 5 at the Foundation's busiest facility that wasn't Site 19. Salt and 10 had to wade through a hive of activity to find the right office. 5 was deep in discussion with an uncomfortable-looking portly gentleman. Come on in! 5 smiled wildly under his salt and pepper mustache. He was wearing a black and yellow blackbird tie. Another blackbird perched atop his gray hat. Everyone knew about those damn blackbirds. What about the damn blackbirds? The fly trap. Oh. I'll get back to that, I guess. Someday. No, I won't. Wait, what? Well, there's probably something interesting in there, but we'll never see it. Unless you want to, if you want me to come back to that, let me know, but it doesn't seem important. Salt observed that this was, in fact, the portly gentleman's office. He seemed to be a secretary. Certainly not cleared for council discussions. I thought you'd be alone, 10 said in a tone that said no such thing. I'll come back. Oh no, this is fine. What can I do for you? I've come to ask what your vote will be. On Alpha 9? Oh, no, God, no. That should never be allowed to pass. Salt's stomach sank. She'd expected 5 to abstain. He didn't favor projects like this, but if he thought it sufficiently entertaining, he was usually willing to step aside. If this was his reaction... Is there something that could convince you otherwise? Oh, probably not. If this passes, it will endanger everyone in the Foundation. In a year I could be saying I told you so in the ruins of this very office over this poor gentleman's corpse. Right. Then again, who knows? I've been wrong before. Maybe it'll work out. Or maybe the end of the world as we know it will be so bad. In seriousness, 10, I'm sorry. But I won't vote for this. Thank you for your time. You're more than welcome. Now, where were we? Salt and 10 let themselves out as the man struggled to come up with an answer. They met 6 at a station filled with hundreds of people on hundreds of monitors. Here, walking back and forth, barking out orders, 6 was at home. 6 was a tanned white man in a white suit with a white wolf's headed cane and a white Stetson. American personnel called him Cowboy. Non-Americans called him the American. He sounds like Doug Dimmadome. Presently, he was overseeing the aftermath of a containment breach. A fire raged on one screen, a roiling pale mass flowed across another. A sea of red obscured a third. Pull the teams from Sector 17 and send them to 8. 17's lost. I've seen what the Tagliatelle can do. Get another squad to Sector 5. We can't afford a second Alfredo flood. Alfredo flood? Okay. Sultan 10 watched as 6 directed his forces with easy mastery. When the breach looked like it was under control, he approached and greeted them. You can speak freely here. I trust everyone in this room. I got the breach alert on the way over. That was handled well. Trying to butter me up? He waved off her objection. I'm kidding. I read the Alpha 9 report you sent. I'd have appreciated a bit more if you had sent it to me before you started the project. I apologize. I misread the situation. I didn't wish to make your job more difficult. Yours was not the only report sent to me in the last few days. I received several from 8's office alone. Seems they don't approve of Alpha 9. Which did you find more convincing? I found all the reports convincing. I see a whole lot of upsides and a whole lot of downsides. This could be a disaster waiting to happen. Yes, I believe that the benefits outweigh the risks. I appreciate that, but it's still more risk when we have enough to deal with already. 6 pointed at the fires burning on the monitors. The insurgents breached that damn pasta pot 3 times in the past year. They're mocking us because we're vulnerable. I would respectfully suggest that this illustrates why we need Alpha 9. Or maybe it just means we can't afford any new risks. If this is worth the risk, then find a way to prove it. Pasta pot? Let's see. Marked for deletion, however, because certain pages on the site depend on knowledge of this article, usually tales or supplements, it has been retained. The following story makes reference to this page. Okay, so apparently this is an archived 503. What? What? How is it upgrade to Keter? It appears to be an ancient iron cooking pot with a volume of 20 liters. However, unlike normal pots, it has the ability to infinitely generate pasta that is cooked and ready for consumption. I do not understand how that could possibly require being Keter class. But, much like that last thing, it probably doesn't matter. So, if you want me to come back and find out why this infinite pasta is Keter class, let me know in the comments, otherwise I'm moving on. 7 was a fat South Asian woman who dressed like she'd blown up a thrift store. Dang. Unlike 6, she would never be confused with a movie star, but she inhabited her power like a second skin. She stood at the prow of a battleship watching the horizon, mint green scarf whipping in the wind. Is this another SCP? Oh, it's a part of the flytrap again. I might have to go back to the flytrap someday. If it's come up in this single story twice in 2 different lengths, I might have to come back to that. Recognize these? She asked, gesturing to cannons mounted in huge turrets. Salt did not. They were sleek, blue, chrome pattern, like something out of a neoclassical sci-fi. They're called L cannons. They fire anomalous lightning, non-fatal, and doesn't disperse in water. They use a lot of water, so they're easiest to use on the ocean. We use them to subdue aquatic anomalies. Eldritch stun guns, Salt said. Came from Project Zeus, anomalous weaponry, lightning from heaven, right? Zeus seemed pretty promising until the council got one to shut it down. I'm seeing the parallel. They only made 5 of these babies, but we learned a lot. If they shut down Alpha 9, we'll have learned a lot too. And we can try again in another 10 years. We might not have another 10 years. We're all but immortal, we've got time. What if we don't? What if the end is right around the corner? 7 waved her off. You sound just like the last 10. You remind me that there is such a thing as too much knowledge. All those ends of the world rattling around in your head. Look around us. What do you see? The sea. The sun rising. You see the world. It's still here. Despite everything, we're still here. They were silent for a while, the ocean breeze drifting around them. You've helped Project Resurrection more than anyone. How do you plan to vote? I don't know. The ship sailed on into the sunrise. They met. Is this another one of the flytrap? Nope. Duke till dawn. Let's see. They met 8 in a crowded office, hunched over in his chair, surrounded by his proxies. Salt felt the discomfort of their stares. She had advised 10 against coming here. 8 was never going to support Alpha 9. 9 years ago, 8 had been the newest member of the council, as 10 was now. Salt remembered him then, ambitious, full of energy. Among his first acts was approval of a plan which led to the destruction of Site-19. It never recovered. The hell happened? A really long story. Probably not important. Now, 8's proxies ran his office. They spoke for him here, too. I can't believe you would come here, this proxy was Pine, a by-the-book woman 8 had taken on 9 years ago as damage control. You know the way these things should be done, you chose to flout them. Willow, rumored to have been narrowly passed over for a council position, worked on Foundation infrastructure. You're new, he told 10. A member of the council can do anything they wish, but they shouldn't. You had no right to start a project like this. You should have come to the council first. I don't know what the hell you and your staff were thinking, Dogwood, who spoke for 8 so much that many thought he was 8. There are plenty of projects on the council's plate that are actually worthy. More manpower, expanding existing task forces, overhauling existing operations, not starting new ones. Fucking seriously. You're not stupid, tell her. Salt looked away. She was used to 10 commanding fear and respect. The attitude of 8's staff disturbed her. 10 looked at 8. What do you have to say? We speak for 8, Will said. You know this. Leave! 8 murmured. Silence. Not 10. The rest of you. Leave the room. Willow looked astonished, but 8 clutched his armrest. Get out! Pine shook her head and left. Dogwood left calmly. Willow sat in his seat for a moment before rising, a picture of barely contained fury. In a few moments, only 8, 10, and Salt remained in his office. They're right, 8 said, in a voice harsh with disuse. Your project will fail. As it should be. It's wrong what we do. 13 people controlling the fate of the Foundation, the fate of all mankind. It's a cruel joke. We shouldn't even exist. None of us deserve to stay on this council. But you'll go before I do. And here's 9. Before, 9 had been Donna Witu Taylor, Maori New Zealander noted geologist. She landed on the Foundation's radar when she independently discovered the presence of anomalies. She'd been developing a unified theory of anomalies. It wasn't perfect, but it impressed the council enough that she was put on a very unusual list. The list to replace 059. And what's the story behind that? SCP-963. Why is 059 an SCP? It is to be given into the care of a current D-level operative as well as personnel classified as Dr. Bright's assistant. This assistant is to be chosen by 05 blank for loyalty to the Foundation as well as psychological stability. Okay, so it seems like a lot of messed up things went down with whatever this is. We'll get there someday. 9 took them to visit 2697, the watershed of a creek in Nevada, which burned yearly with anomalous fire. Their helicopter landed in a cloud of gray ash, and Salt followed the council members through the dust. 9 seemed eager and embarrassed. Besides our preparations, which I can't study, this is only the second time I've come this close to an anomaly since joining the council. The first was that oracle. 10 nodded. Salt watched curiously. Officially, no member of the council was allowed to come into contact with any anomaly. In practice, so long as they didn't do it publicly, who could stop them? But while the council hadn't actually restricted her access, 9 was particularly kept apart. They hiked through an aspen grove with barely charred leaves. If it weren't for the ash on the ground, no one would have guessed a wildfire burned through here only days ago. 9 stopped to examine a rabbit. Like most of 2697's wildfire, it seemed very interested in the interlopers. One of its legs was almost burned off, exposing white bone. 9 almost touched it, hesitated, and called over an agent to hold it for her. Remarkable! The leg is fully functional. Most of the fur doesn't even look burned. She stood up. There are 2 anomalies here. The first exists to contain the second. Something underneath us, dangerous to all life. She held out her hand for the rabbit to sniff. These animals are agents of the paranatural world. They keep us safe and are rewarded for it. She pointed at the rabbit's leg, where ash was causing flesh to grow over the exposed bone. This place may be an anomaly, but it has a kinship with us. It secures, contains, and protects. Why don't we acknowledge that kinship? That's why I wanted to come here. I wanted to see that we are not alone. They visited a bar after, incognito. 9 drank like a fish, 10 matched her. Salt watched. I gotta admit, I'm frustrated sometimes. You're all so damn cagey. No one explained all this to me, you know. First I thought it was because I was so new, then they added you, and you're... I'm one of them like you're not. At least you'll drink with me. The others, it's like you want to live up to your reputation of omniscient council of possible supervillains. I'm surprised we don't get cats to pet and mustaches to twirl. I did have a pet cat. I gave her up when I joined the council. Good God, if that's the kind of key personal information you let slip when you get drunk? They were quiet for a moment. I'm sorry about your cat. Think nothing of it. So why am I different? Ah, hell. If I'm not long for this council, consider this my parting gift. The council is afraid of you. Why would they be afraid? Because we all think the same way. It's just what happens when you rise to the Foundation. How you look at the universe is different from us, and how the universe looks at you. Ten looked at Salt. Help me explain. Salt was startled but complied. The council knows you won't attack anyone and you don't have a personal power base. It's about why they chose you to replace 963-2, not someone else. Oh? So much of the anomalous depends on perspective. All those self-made type blues in the Serpent's Hand and the GOC are more esoteric thought-based containment procedures. The entire anti-memetics department. The council is afraid of losing your unique perspective. They're also afraid of what your perspective might do. They think you're going to change everything, be wiped from existence, or some combination of both. They were quiet for a long time. Do I end the world? 9 asked 10. We all end the world in some way or another. Do we save it? Who knows? 10. 10 ordered Salt to watch her as she slept that night. She woke several times babbling odd things before falling asleep again. She seemed more than drunk, sick, maybe delirious. Salt had never seen her this way. Salt kept targeted amnestic pills in a little cup next to her caffeine pills, in case 10 let something slip that she wasn't supposed to know. The audio-video feed would verify that later, but Salt hadn't passed all of the Factorum's loyalty tests for nothing. They will send her to see the plague first, and then who knows. First 0 and Adam, then 9, and then if the pattern holds. What if this isn't enough? Only thorns? For how long? If we can't find another chance? The Black Queen must know. She closed the way. All her little birds scattered. The library. If I could see that catalog, perhaps 4. The first cracks are already here, the dandelions. Eventually, 10 slept for a long while. Salt watched her in the dark. She deconstructed 10's appearance, as she had many times before. That nose, the slight freckles, the curly hair, the slender hands. It had been disturbing back when they'd altered her to take 10's appearance. They'd shared only certain baseline qualities, African descent, US origin, cisgender female. Everything else had been different. She'd been heavier and shorter than 10, her skin had different undertones, her hair had been less kinky, her eyes a different shade of brown. This was the face that had looked back at her in the mirror for nearly half a decade. This was her job, to be 10's twin. If 10 was removed because of Alpha 9, will she be asked to keep this appearance as a security feat? Will they revert her to the way she was before, replaced by a decoy compatible with the new 10? Was that what she wanted? The hours ticked by. 10 woke again in the wee hours of the morning. She shot up from her bed like a bullet, eyes staring everywhere, sweat poured down her face. If I die, she said, if I die, you have to tell the next 10 to go to the Bloom. They have to find out what Cain and Abel did and why. There's a reason for all of this, and Cain knows. You must tell the next 10 to speak to Cain about the Bloom. She sat back on the bed, panting, looking at the floor. Salt recognized enough to know that she was not allowed to know what 10 was saying. Horrified, she reached for her amnestic pills. 10 slapped them out of her hand. You will not forget! She grabbed Salt by her collar. You will remember! Promise me! I promise! Salt said. 10 stared at her, breathing hard. Then she released her, laid down, and returned to sleep. 11. 11 took the use of proxies further than other council members. Not even 11's Factorums knew which was the real 11. Perhaps it didn't matter. Salt and 10 met with 2 maybe proxies. The mailman greeted them politely. Rumor claimed he was at once an actual mailman. His staff joked about him going postal, but only joked. He oversaw the Class D pool. Every mass intake, every use of Protocol 12, every assessment for mind wipe or termination. The liar sat on the edge of the mailman's desk. Today her skin was white as death. She wore a tight-fitted black suit with red pinstripes and a plunging neckline. The liar held court over the Foundation's Department of Disinformation. Probably. Welcome! Her stark makeup accentuated her intense stare and fierce grin. We're sorry more of us couldn't make it. The Senator sends his regards. I appreciate that you asked for me, the mailman said, but as things stand, I wish both sides the best. You've seen so many other council members already. I'm not sure what I can say that they haven't said better. So many other council members indeed, the liar shook her head. How lucky for you, Salt. You must have learned so many juicy secrets. Would you like to learn another? From you? Why not? I tell plenty of truths, the liar said. I expect you'll soon learn more exciting secrets. I'd like to upstage them in advance, so here's half of my secret. Maybe you've already guessed it from what they call me. She leaned in close to Salt and stage whispered, I'm the devil. Alto Clef already pulled that one, but that was only half of the secret. Guess the other half. Salt felt skeptical. You're also Alto Clef? I like this one, 10. It's so lonely down here. You should bring her around more often. Perhaps. The liar suddenly looked suddenly serious. My lovelies, I am indeed Alto Clef, and also the devil. If you tell, no one will ever believe you, not even on this council. That's why Seven felt she could approach me that way. Shameful. First making me put on that fat male body again, and then hanging my daughter over my head. So cruel. She shook her finger at them. I hope you had nothing to do with that. But even if you did, I'll bear it because I'm loyal to this foundation. Aren't you? Of course. Don't mistake me, the liar said. The devil could never run the foundation. I'm under God's thumb. Returned, however temporarily, to my former role. That of accuser. Of adversary. The others have split opinions. Left to them, 11 would abstain from the vote. So it comes down to me. And I cannot support your project. I simply cannot. Understood. The mailman pushed aside some of his stacked up paperwork. You're welcome here any time, 10, but... May I please have my office back? 12. They met with Agent Troy Lament in place of 12. Rain poured down overhead. Lament wasn't a factotum, but close. He was of that rare breed of Foundation agent usually assigned to projects that were both vital and possibly fatal. Invaluable, yet expendable. Sometimes the projects were people. Gears, Everett Man. And though he didn't know it, Lament was a council project too. Another success. Another who did not remember his real name or history, nor the family he'd left behind. I'm told you're not cleared to know about 0512, ma'am. Lament said to Salt. Please assume anything I say about them is disinformation. That sound good? May I ask why 12 set you as a proxy? Nope. Perhaps a personal question. Depends on what the question is. I heard you were offered the commander position for MTF Alpha 9 before Sophia Light. Salt looked at Lament carefully. And that you... declined? If you don't already know, ma'am, I think I should go ahead and not answer that. Lament wiped rain out of his eyes. Then 12's verdict is unfavorable, 10 said. Sorry. They don't want to see us go back to Pandora's box. They feel that using SCPs is the insurgency's bailiwick. Whatever the hell that means. SCP Task Force is just too far from the Foundation's actual mission. I understand. One last thing. 12 feels you're a valuable member of the Council, and you shouldn't let yourself go down like this. I'm heavily paraphrasing here. They say you should consider apologizing, backing off, and living to fight another day. Thank you for your time, Agent Lament. Please relay my thanks to 0512. Yes, ma'am. Thunder rumbled overhead. They headed for shelter. 10 looked contemplative, rain soaking her curls. Salt watched her and shivered. 13. Tamlin. A person said to be unstuck from space and time, able to see the future. 13's vote usually passed between council members, used only as a tiebreaker. When 13 chose to vote personally, everyone took notice. It meant that the course of the Foundation was about to change, and what could that be? I think I've read this, actually. Yeah, I've read this one. 10's hope was that 13 would consider this vote such a shift in course, and that 13 would favor her cause. There were many paths to see 13, under Kilimanjaro, governed by wind and fog, under Uluru, by permissions of the Anangu, and the Marianas Trench, by submersible, and here, under the Olympus Mountains. All led to an incandescent blue lake, and the lake was a half-submerged bronze castle, more gargantuan than any ever seen, a castle for giants. Salt and 10 entered a rowboat at the shore. 10 whispered a soft verse in another language. The boat's empty seats filled with pale, shimmering phantoms. The boat moved on towards the castle. Salt could see writing etched on the castle walls between arterial tubes running with lake water. The writing swam when she tried to read it. She looked away until the boat rode a reverse waterfall to the castle's landing. Mammoth doors swung open. An inscription, "None who die may leave." This castle was not always mind-bending, she'd heard, but today it was in fine form. Rooms spun, melt, fused, and turned. Salt was quickly unsure what was real. A shrine to a shadow called Old Aggie here, a nest of squirrels with butterfly wings there. 10 seemed to navigate the maze easily. Salt stumbled after. They entered a room full of books, handless clocks, and a fireplace with ruby fire. 13 greeted them. Most people saw 13 as a red-haired man of varying description, sometimes a woman. Disturbingly, Salt saw 13 as another mirror to her and 10, except with vibrant red hair and deep green eyes. She wore a lab coat, a turban, and a friendly, innocent smile. 13 and 10 talked. Salt couldn't understand the words. She tried to focus on anything at all. She picked up one of the books filling the shelves. A diary filled with handwriting. She checked another book. Another. All different languages, same handwriting. She couldn't focus. Afterwards, she remembered only one thing 13 had said. "Oh no!" 13 had looked surprised. "I didn't vote on the matter of Alpha 9. This time." 1, the founder, was the hardest to see. Or maybe 10 had wanted more time to brace herself. A mansion crowned the top of a hill, surrounded by orderly white labs and peaceful woods. Orderly white labs? One border was a sheer cliff. It reminded Salt of a wealthy coastal homes with whitewater views worth millions. But one's mansion overlooked a bustling city, a view of the rest of humanity. Salt and 10 were ushered into an impressive study. Maps and framed black and white photos adorned the walls. A pale, well-dressed man entered. He reminded Salt of someone. She wasn't sure who. He shook Salt's hand. "I'm Aaron. You must be wondering if I am 051 or a decoy like you. I will say this. You have 051's regards. You have come to ask for one's vote?" "Yes." Aaron opened an unlabeled amber bottle and poured glasses. "Cognac. A unique vintage. It doesn't technically exist on Earth any longer. Don't be shy. If I don't drink it with visitors, it can never be drunk." Salt sipped from the glass. It tasted of honey and something else, unidentifiable. Alien. Aaron watched her expression. "A memory of the garden," he said. They walked through a maze of bright labs and boarded a glass elevator. "Is this freaking Willy Wonka's factory?" Aaron smiled. "I made that cognac sound spooky, didn't I? It wasn't mystical, just really good cognac. But it seemed anomalous, right?" Salt nodded, embarrassed. "It's all a matter of perspective. Is that a fairy or a miniature flying humanoid? Is that a mind-bending eldritch horror or an anomalous mimetic pattern? Is that a dark primordial god or an SCP with a multi-digit number?" A bright white underground facility came into view. The walls and ceilings were also tempered glass. The facility hummed with activity. Researchers, agents, D-class. "Among other things," Aaron said, "this facility contains what I'm about to show you. No, it's not SCP-01. Not nearly that interesting." The elevator sank past the facility, then emerged again into a dark cavern. The cavern was massive, dwarfing 13's lake. As Salt stared, she found that she could make out faces. The cavern was half filled with a gallery of statues, too immense to have been constructed here underground. I hate this place. It's an ordinary SCP classified for historical reasons. We completed research on it back in '85. A ways into the cavern, a fire burned. Beyond the fire, Salt could make out a procession of massive shadows moving slowly through the deep dark. What are they? It doesn't matter. We're the Foundation. We contain things like this. We don't dress them up. We don't give them power. I'd have paved this whole thing over long ago if I had my way, and good riddance, he sighed. They walked out to the fire. A small group formed a ring around it. The most unusual was a bearded man who sat on a carved stone throne. "This is where we come to remember," someone said. "All the eras erased or unremembered, when all of humanity was huddled around fires like this one." Firelight danced across her face. "Here, we remind ourselves what it is like to be afraid." "We protect normalcy," another said. "We do not choose normalcy. Increasing our use of anomalies is a dangerous step, when it could lead us, like the insurgency, down the path towards trying to become like God." "What do you advise?" The bearded man looked at 10. "You know what's coming. I hope you do not regret what you have done and what you mean to do. Do not drag us back into the dark." They returned to the surface in silence. "I can't tell you how one will vote," Aaron said, "but you've been heard. Perhaps we will meet again." He shook Salt's hand. After. The council meeting was attended securely, members represented in shadows. Salt and other personal Factorum were allowed to observe. The debate was quick. Salt grew frustrated watching as 10 said very little in defense of Alpha 9. Maybe she'd already given up. The council voted. Support 2, 4, 9, 10. Oppose 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12. Abstain 3 and 13. Alpha 9 was over. All that build-up, Salt thought, just to end like this, a quiet deflation. There would be assassins now. If they were lucky, there would only be assassins. I have another matter to bring to the table, 8 said. 2 or 4 have acted appropriately, but their allies have not. With regret, I propose the censure of 059 and 0510. Salt watched with horror. I'm not... Okay. The council wouldn't censure 9, but 10. She looked at 8's shadow and felt something close to loathing. He should have a little more sympathy, she thought. It was his head on the chopping block 9 years ago. But then maybe that's why he didn't. 10 finally spoke. This is not about me, she said. It is not about repeating the old mistakes. We all know we have changed. At the root, this is about SCP-0762. Its turning was a betrayal we will never forget. But Alpha 9 is not about 0762. It is about SCP-105. During the breach at Site-19, when she encountered agents of the Coalition, her actions were remarkable. She went above and beyond the Call of Duty as someone who that Call of Duty does not even officially apply to. She is, potentially, an ideal agent. She understands how we work, she's calm under fire, she's loyal. Cage her again and she'll stay loyal. She's anomalous. Jack Bright resides in a soul jar with an SCP designation. Tilda Moose, a Type Blue, is the director of Site-19. And we drink from the fountain. What is more anomalous than eternal youth? SCP-105 is no different from one of us. Look how big this project became so quickly. Frightening or promising, none of us fully understand the ramifications here. I will not disavow this project. This is an idea whose time has come. Silence. The clock ticked on. Salt felt her heart beat in her chest, watching the screen, waiting for the silence to be broken. At last, one sighed. Very well, he said. Until such a time as we can prove the effectiveness or danger of Alpha 9, consider my vote changed to abstain. Silence rang. Salt realized what had happened, what was happening. The vote remains 4-6. Astonishment was in 8's voice. The motion still does not pass. 4-6, 6 said. I abstain. I hope you know what you're doing, 10. 7 sounded amused. I confess, despite my ambivalence on its merits, I genuinely like the Alpha 9 project. I will change my vote to support. I believe that is now 5-4 in favor. You bastards! 8's voice shook with anger. Anyone else? Anyone else wish to support this foolish dream? But it was a mistake. Salt could see that now. 8 had to see it too. 11's vote switched silently from opposed to abstain. After a moment, 5's vote switched to abstain too. 8 shook his head. When he spoke, the anger was gone from his voice. My friends, I sincerely apologize. I look at these plans, and I see not the mistakes of others, but my own. I see Site-19 burning again, but I see that my judgment has become compromised. I will trust you. I change my vote to support. God help us all. Salt stared at 8's screen. The expression on 8's shadow face remained carefully neutral. He realized it too, nearly too late. That the other council members were never going to be convinced, but that they were going to let it happen anyway. They just wanted to let 10 take the leap. They wanted her, when she ought to have backed off, to put everything on the line. 12's computerized voice said, both sides have fairly good arguments, but I still feel that Alpha 9 is too clearly dangerous for us to endorse, and I feel more strongly about that than I feel about punishing 8's political error. I confirm my vote to oppose. A respectable stance. The final vote stood 6-1. Consider carefully, 10, one said. If the consequences for this project are as dire as we fear, if the Foundation comes crashing on our heads, it will be crashing on your head first. The meeting closed. The shadows rose from their seats and disappeared into their respective darknesses. Salt had a final thought as she and 10 left the council chambers. If someone sent assassins, they wouldn't be sent for 10. The opposition would target Alpha 9 directly. But that was a worry for later. For now, Salt smiled. Alpha Niner was a go. Okay, so that took a lot longer than I expected it to take. Well, actually, it took just about the episode is about as long as they usually are. I just wasn't expecting that one section to be the whole episode. So I guess in the next episode, we'll hit these two stories right here. These guys. And like I said, if you want me to go back to those various things that were happening in the High Court with the Magic Army that sound important but not important enough to stretch out the episode right now, let me know in the comments. So, this has been Anashi Sasuke. This is episode 51 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe would be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things. So, thanks again, and I will see y'all in the next one. Later!